Hello, and welcome to a very special episode of the All Pop No Culture podcast. We're actually doing a crossover this week with a friend of ours, Jax, who runs the YouTube channel Ravens and Writing Desks. She contacted us last week and asked us if we want to do a little crossover, do a little cross promotion, and get something going for both of our accounts. So we said, sure, what the heck? So we all agreed to watch Skinamarink this week. Because it was Jax's idea and she has some cooler technology than we do. She's running the show. So I hope you enjoyed the episode, and I'm going to hand it off to her right now and enjoy the show.
Hello out there, and today I'm welcoming Kevin and Andrew from the podcast All Pop No Culture. They are going to join me today while we talk about the movie Skinamarink. We all watched it, and today we're going to discuss it. Whether we loved it, whether we hated it, we're going to jump into that in just a second. But first, I want to talk to them about their podcast, All Pop, No Culture. So tell me a little bit about that, guys. How did it start? How do you guys know each other? Let's jump into that.
I'll go first since it started with me and a couple other guys. I want to say 3 or 4 years ago now. It's been around for a long time. And we started a podcast where in the beginning, we would just everybody would watch something and then we'd talk about the one specific thing for a week. And then over time, we kind of started to realize that if we were going to do it weekly, it's really hard to find something every single week for us to talk about, individually or as a unit.
Yeah.
So we started splitting it up and started talking about streaming services. So one person would get Amazon, one person would get whatever. And so we did that for a while, and then those lines kind of started to blur, and it just became, whatever we watched. And after COVID hit, the original kind of cast of characters kind of started to fall apart. Like we started to slip and kind of not have time to work. Because when it first started, we actually started as an audio only podcast, and we recorded at my friend's house, or actually at my friend's mom's house. And did audio only with the full mic setup and the board and everything. And so it took us a bit to figure out how we were going to deal with that with COVID. And then on top of that, one of our guys moved to LA, and then I moved to Connecticut because we were all in California. And then it was kind of falling apart for a little while. And then so me and Pete, who were two of the original guys, started looking for guest stars to kind of keep it rolling. And I think Andrew was our first or second guest star. And then we just couldn't get rid of him. And over time, Pete got more and more busy, and we kind of started popping some other people in as special guests, but for the most part, for what is it, a year and a half now, almost, maybe more. It's been me and Andrew and whoever we bring in.
Nice. And how did you meet Andrew? Or Andrew, how did you become the guest star on the show?
So the crazy thing is, for some reason, there's this class of 95 thing going on from the California East Bay. So pretty much Pete, who was on the show with the other originals, including Kevin, we went to high school together. So Pete had basically asked myself and another guy named Andy by chance, and we all went to high school together. And, we just did I think I had one show just by myself, and then one show with me, Andy, Kevin, and Pete. And that was kind of the original four. I almost felt like we were the Ghostbusters, or like we were the Stranger Things kids or something, right? But then as things evolved, I remember it was around, well, I'm just going to babble a bit, but to answer your question, I know them from high school. But then by summer of, I want to say 2022, yes, we started doing it was just me and Kevin. And I remember thinking to myself, man, is this going to suck? Because because usually there's more of us together. Are we going to be cool? Are we going to be boring? But it actually worked out. So I think that's basically, everything all happened organically. But to answer your question, high school, we're all class of 95.
Gotcha. Okay, that's cool. So me and Kevin, I know Kevin from our movie group. Kevin and I have a mutual friend. Originally, we're friends now and have been for months, maybe going on a year now. or
it's
getting
probably
close
pushing a
to a
year.
year
Yeah.
now. Yeah. We had a mutual friend, and this friend and I were in a movie group, completely online. We met on Twitter, and she's now one of my best friends. But we met on Twitter, and every Wednesday we do a movie that we watched on a watch party on Amazon Prime. And eventually Kevin joined us with some other people, and we watched these ridiculous, outrageous, usually the craziest movies we can find. Think Velocipaster, Lawmageddon, along that lines. So we do that every Wednesday, and we chat and we have a really good time. So that's how Kevin and I know each other. And I invited him on the show because you guys do your movie reviews, and we have that in common. So today we're switching things up here on Ravens and Writing Desks. Whereas I usually talk to people about their books, today I get to do a little bit of my other favorite media, which is movies. And we are going to talk about Skinamarink. We all watched it this week. And let's get into it. What did you guys think?
I'll let Andrew go first because he was texting a little bit.
So, like, I tend to like to be a positive person. I really do. So it pains me to say that I hated it. I hated it. I remember, like, even I finished it tonight, like the last 20 minutes, maybe even 15 minutes. I was like, please be over, please be over. Oh, it's not over. Okay. Please be over. Please be over. It's not over. And I know it's an experimental film. I know that it's a certain kind of vibe, but it left me, like, as a matter of fact, there was a movie I really hated called Lamb. It's an A24 film, but this film exceeded Lamb. Like, I actually think, like, as I was finishing it, I was like, I don't know if I've hated another movie more than this. Like, seriously. So, I mean, yeah, it's that bad. So I can keep going, but that's my opening salvo. Yeah, man, I hated it. Sorry, man. He's Canadian too, and I'm from Canada.
I had the same feeling at the end, and oh my gosh, I just like, is it over yet? But I like the premise, I think. It was very reminiscent of Eraserhead for me. Where it's weird and you're not sure what's going on, but I just couldn't focus. My ADHD the whole time. I was like, I need to pick up my phone. Wait, I can't. I have to watch everything that's happening because otherwise I'm going to get super lost. Is it over yet? No, there's still 30 freaking minutes left of this movie.
Yes.
So it was just an ADHD nightmare for me. I was just ready for it to be over. I didn't hate it.
Yeah.
I think there were some genuinely creepy moments and some genuinely suspenseful moments, but I wish that I could use parts of my brain to focus on something else so that I could be more into it. It was just too much dead air and too much staring at nothing for me to really get into it.
Yeah, I didn't hate it, but I didn't really like it either. I'm definitely more, at the bottom end of the spectrum here. But I did respect what it was doing. Like it's atmospheric, right? It's all about the way that it's supposed to make you feel. I didn't really get that, but I got what they were trying to do. It kind of reminds me of something like The Killing of a Sacred Deer, which I just watched a couple weeks ago, where they set a tone and they make the people speak in a certain way that is so uncomfortable, and then everything that they do and the way they react to things are so uncomfortable that it sets the tone for the whole movie. And so this is definitely a movie about the tone that it's in, and if you get sucked into that, I think it would probably be pretty scary. But excuse me, but I didn't, and I think this movie would actually really benefit from being watched in VR with like really good headphones, because the sound does bounce around, right? So
Yeah.
you get this kind of 3D audio feel to it. And I think if, like I said, if you had like a VR headset and you could not look at anything else, you're 100% in the film, and you're letting the audio kind of eat you up. I can see how it can get you there, but it definitely didn't work for me. I was watching it in a well-lit room on a 65-inch TV that was, I don't know, 15 feet away from me. So like there's the world around me, and it's easier to get distracted. So
the word
fine.
perspective just appeared in my brain, and what you just said helped me arrive at that. So yes, if you're in a VR situation, it's definitely going to immerse you, right? Now, one of the things I read about all the critics is like, oh, it echoes your childhood and things that you've gone through. Okay, well, that is nothing like my own childhood, right? So I feel like the film kind of speaks to a very specific kind of audience who can relate to that. So if your childhood was like that, then it's already got you. But you've already lost me because that's not my childhood at all. And if I heard like a voice say, "Come upstairs," I would not come upstairs. I'm sorry, like it's not happening. That's number one. Number two, perspective. What drove me insane was I didn't know whose vantage point I was looking at. Am I looking at it from a kid's vantage point? Am I looking at it from Kevin's vantage point? I love it. His name's Kevin, by the way. Am I looking at it from Kaylee's standpoint, or am I looking at it from an objective standpoint? I couldn't tell who I was looking from, right? At least with Blair Witch, you could kind of like with that found footage, who's holding the camera. So it helps you kind of relate more to the experience. But the whole time, it's like, is it over? Whose perspective am I looking at? Why can't I see anyone's face? Why can I barely hear? And one of the things that Kevin talks about, because horror, like comedy, is like super subjective, right? So it just depends on who you are and how it lands, right? So one thing that we laugh about is like any possession movie, right? Like The Conjuring, like where or even Annabelle. When demons start showing up, like that's when I'm freaked out. Whereas Kevin's like, I'm taken out. That can't happen. Okay. But for me, toilets appearing and disappearing, I'm sorry, it doesn't happen. It can't happen, period. I sooner believe demonic possession than a house that starts disappearing doors. Like nothing in this movie grabbed me at all. Again, I applaud it. I actually I'm actually kind of sad that none of us liked it, because I want to hear that perspective. I want to hear why you liked it, because yeah, man, I'm not where you guys are. I'm straight up like, I wish I got my time back. I could say more, and I'm going to save it though, because I don't want to dominate the conversation.
I almost felt like I was kind of being trolled a little bit. Like, I don't know if you watch The Office, but they have an episode, a Halloween episode, and Gabe from Saber comes in with this film, and it's like just random clips of an old lady eating soup and Stanley getting out of his car and a cake being stabbed. And he's like, it's scary because there's no plot line and it's just random. And that's why it's disturbing. And I'm like, the whole time I'm watching this movie, I'm thinking of that film that Gabe brings into the office. And I'm like, this is that genre. I think Gabe could have made this film. Yeah. And that's what I'm thinking about the whole time. So I'm like, is this a troll? Is this just satire, or is this really supposed to be scary? And like I said, it did have the atmosphere, and there was a jump scare that got me when the little girl was upstairs. So there was some scary parts and some suspenseful parts, but like you said, where you don't know whose perspective you're seeing. I didn't know if I was supposed to be seeing Kevin's or Kaylee's or the entity or whatever it was at any given moment. So I didn't know who to relate to, or it was just confusing for most of the movie. And then I couldn't focus for the last 30 minutes of the movie. So I wanted to like it a lot more than I did.
Yeah, me too. And it was interesting, if you watch the beginning of it and then you read up on it, it was a crowdfunded film. And not only was it crowdfunded, but the idea of it was crowdfunded. So the dude that made it took a bunch of notes from people. Like he asked people, what dreams scare you? So this is like, the whole point of it is it's supposed to feel very much like a nightmare, not like anything that could actually happen in real life. It's supposed to feel like a dream and be that abstract in that regard. But at the same time, like, I'm with Andrew. I would like to see the list of things that people wrote down that scared them, because I understand that stepping on Legos is one of the worst things you can ever do. So maybe that's somebody's nightmare, because there's Legos all over the floor. But after that, like, I don't know. Just, I mean, not knowing where you're going, losing perspective on things, not being able to do things that you want to do and not being able to escape. Like that's, I see how those things kind of were woven in, but I don't know where the rest of the story is. Other than the little girl followed the voice, didn't do what it was told, and she lost her eyes and her mouth. And then the little boy, I don't know, stabbed himself in the eye and then
Yeah, that
called
got
big
me.
911.
Yeah. Sorry.
No, go ahead.
Yeah. So I did reading as well, right? So when like Kaylee goes up to the room and sees her dad first sitting on the bed, and then he disappears, then her mom's there, and then her mom disappears, and then she's in the closet and goes, "There's something here," and then you hear bones cracking. Now I read that like afterwards, and that to me gave me a little bit of a chill. So basically, my thing is like, okay, so clearly, like this entity lived in the house. It probably made the kid like injure himself in the sleepwalk. When they came back to the house, the entity is like, okay, I'm not now. It's on. Like I'm not just messing with this kid during dream walking. I'm gonna take your whole family. So that I kind of get. But yeah, outside of that, like I totally and Gavin, I'm doing this on another show. I totally had a point. It's gone and it's gonna come back. It's gone. Oh man.
Yeah. And maybe it's hard to care about these kids too, because we never really see them. I know they were kind of did that to keep it eerie and whatever, but it's hard. It's kind of hard to connect with the kids too.
Totally
Because
random.
I don't know who they are.
Totally random. So there is an anime that's called Neon Genesis Evangelion, and there is a sequence in the film End of Evangelion, which is so much like this film, right? But the sequence only lasts maybe 5-10 minutes, and it's an exploration into the psyche of the main character. So you'll see like static shots of a swing, right? Going back and forth, but it's a static shot. It's super grainy, or it's like a doll, or it's like him as a kid playing on the sand. Like it's a very, again, atmospheric. So when the movie started, I'm like, okay, cool, I'm ready. Like, yeah, let's do this, But then when it was like an hour and a half of it, I was like, yo, dude, like this. Okay, I think you guys get the point. Andrew hated it. So
Well, I'm super curious because the dude did a short film. I'm trying to find the name of it.
Heck, I think it was called.
What was it?
Was it called Heck? Because I remember I was reading about it.
I think so.
And I think this film is an expanded version of Heck.
Yes.
Yeah, I'd be curious about that
too.
one. Yeah, I'd be curious to see that one because I think I know it was obviously shorter. I don't know how short. I mean, if it was like half an hour,
I could do it.
That might actually work better than
100%.
Than the full hour
I
and a
think
half.
that would be better.
Yeah. I want it to be good, but it made $798,000 on a $15,000 budget. So
I mean,
financially speaking,
it really did. It had it was really popular, but I think it failed to accomplish the things that Eraserhead did with the same kind of genre and disturbing imagery, because Eraserhead is not a movie I ever want to watch again, but there was at least some plot between the imagery and the strange things that were happening on screen, and you could somewhat connect to the characters and kind of feel what the main character's feeling, and you could interpret what was happening. My issue with Skinamarink is like I had to do a bunch of reading to be like, okay, what is the point? What is supposed to be happening? And I'm like, is he dead? Is he sleeping? What is happening to this kid right now? Are they in an alternate dimension? And all my reading, they were just like, well, it's whatever you interpret it.
It's all of those. Yeah, whatever you want it to be. Because like one theory is that when he fell, he actually got knocked into a coma. This is all his coma dream. Another one is that this is, or he's dealing with his dad's abusive, and there's like that scene at the end where they show the blood splatter and then disappears, and the blood splatter and disappears, and then he says "mommy," and then it cuts away. And one of the theories is that was the dad killing the mom, and like they saw it and said "mommy," and there's no like, it's so I don't know if avant-garde is the right word,
That's
right? It's just
yeah.
so abstract and crazy that it's hard to follow. And I can tell kind of who it was aimed at when I look at Rotten Tomatoes, because you get 72% from the
Yeah.
audience critics, and critics love
Weird
their
shit.
their weird stuff, right? Like they'll rate something much higher than it probably deserves to be because it's so smart. It reminds me of New York Fashion Week last week when a dude snuck onto the stage in a garbage bag in his underpants,
Yes.
and nobody stopped him because they thought it was fashion, and I'm like, this is that film. This film is the dude in a trash bag in his underpants. And the audience score is only 44%. So you can see that like the wider swath of people watching this didn't get it,
Yeah.
And again, I'm not Mr. I want you to be Michael Bay, like popcorn. I hate that. I mean,
Yeah.
Kevin can vouch for me. Like, I'm definitely about things that are smart and different and left of center. But there's a limit for me.
Yeah.
Yeah. I wanted to like it too. Thank you, Jax, by the way. You totally piqued my interest. I've heard of Eraserhead. As a matter of fact, total random factoids. A kid in play, they had a movie called House Party back in 1990. A
Yeah, I
cop
remember.
calls kid Eraserhead. So between that and you mentioning the damn film, like this is like it's a sign from the universe. I need to now watch this film, especially since you
It's
said you never
on,
want to watch it again. I've never
it's
seen it.
on Max. It's
Done.
not bad. It's not bad. It's
Oh, it's
disturbing.
David Lynch.
It's disturbing. Not how do I just? It's uncomfortable.
Question for
Not
you.
disturbing.
So
It's uncomfortable.
Hereditary or like Midsummer, like would you say it's on that level or even more disturbing?
It's maybe less. I don't know. They're different
I love
kinds.
both of
It's
them. Fair.
different.
Okay.
It's different. It's
Admitted.
uncomfortable.
Okay.
Hereditary and Midsummer are they're uncomfortable in a I don't even know. It's different. It's
Okay.
like kind of avant-garde. There's very little talking, and what is strange, and it's very uncanny valley type of movie. So you just know everything's off and weird, and the whole movie is kind of like playing on David Lynch's fear of being a father, or his uncomfortableness with being a father is the point of the movie. So it's taking that idea and to an uncanny valley, disturbing, very uncomfortable arena. There's some gore and some ick, but it's all in black and white at the same time. So it's interesting, but it's uncomfortable.
Duly noted. Thank you.
Yeah,
I recommend everybody see it once.
it's
It's
like
worth the watch.
what's the Clockwork Orange? Clockwork
I
Orange is a
love
great movie
Clockwork
if you watch it
Orange.
one time. Yeah,
I love the Clockwork Orange.
I've seen it multiple times. I'm one of the few
Yeah.
people that I know that really can. Like a lot of people struggle with it because it's so
It's
so
uncomfortable.
violent. Yeah, it makes you
Yeah.
uncomfortable the whole way. But at the same time, the performances are amazing. Right?
It is.
And
No,
so
It's a kind of a profound film, to be honest, and the book is great too.
yeah, Eraserhead. Just like looking at screenshots and stuff, and the fact it's in black and white makes me think of what's the other Kubrick film that takes place during World? Is it during the war? It's all black and white. I watched it, actually literally watched it for this podcast. We did an episode that was all Kubrick based. And now for my
Strange Love?
life, which one?
Is it Strange Love?
Yeah,
just
Dr. Strangelove.
yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I haven't
Which
seen
was
it yet.
funny. Definitely much funnier. It's definitely not a horror film by any stretch, but it's in what it does with comedy is it's ridiculous, but kind of brilliant at the same time. And I feel like something like Eraserhead is probably over the top on the horror side of the genre. And then and black and white it does lend itself especially well to horror films, I think.
Yeah.
There's just something special about it that works really well. And I don't know why that is, but it really does.
Yeah, I agree.
So we recommend everyone see Skinamarink to like, and actually, I'm being half sarcastic, but I'm also being half serious because like, hey, you maybe you liked it, and then you can like let us know what you think. Seriously,
Yeah,
I'm not.
I would be really curious to hear from somebody that actually really enjoyed it.
Yeah, if you liked it, leave a comment and tell us why. Because, like I said, I didn't hate it, but I'm not going to watch it again. I don't think I could sit through it again.
Yeah, it's funny because I'm the same way, but I also kind of wonder if you watched it and then read about it and then watched it again, if you'd get more out of it a second time through.
It's funny you say that because that's
Maybe.
how I was with Ghost in the Shell. I was like, everyone's like, oh my god, Ghost in the Shell is this amazing anime, and I'm like, this is whack. So then I then watched both Dark City and The Matrix, and then read about it and went back and watched it again and totally saw the connection. Like both those movies I think were inspired by Ghost in the Shell, especially The Matrix.
For sure.
But so maybe, but also check this out, editorializing, but whatever. Like Kevin knows, like last week I had a crazy week at work. So I was burned out. Okay. So I was already tired and burned out. And I think I even said to Kevin, I said, this movie is an amazing sedative because I was falling out like on Sunday afternoon, like after maybe 15, because it was just so quiet and like dark. And I'm just like, so then afterwards, like I'm like, let me, and I hate watching things when I'm tired because I'm unfairly mean to it. So it's totally possible that I partly hated it because of the state of mind I was in, to be fair.
Yeah, I'm super curious because I watched it today, and I'm super curious if I have any weird dreams after this that are
I have weird
Skinamarink
dreams
related.
all the time, so it'll probably just be more par for the course. I really did think that the kid was dead for a while, because when he's like, "Why is mommy crying?" and the little girl sees the parents, but he never does see them until like the end, but they don't seem to react to him. Then I'm like, well, maybe he's dead and only his sister can see him because little kids are always known to see ghosts. And like, maybe he actually died when he fell down the stairs. And she's the one
Yeah,
that saw him fall down the stairs too. So I thought that he died and that
yeah,
she was just
and
seeing his ghost.
maybe the eye and mouth thing is more metaphorical, like she can't talk about him because he's, no one will believe her or
Yeah,
something like that. That works too. Like
that's what I thought.
that is an interesting thing. I think if you had like a film class on this, it'd be interesting to see how many different perspectives you would get, how many different ideas behind it you would get.
Yeah.
And maybe that's the point of it. It's such a bizarre film without any real definition that it is so open to interpretation.
It's like a song in that way where so many people can take the same song and they're like, well, I think it's about this. This movie's like a song. Like you watch it and you can get so many things out of it. But then the director's like, yeah, I'm not going to tell you though. We're just not going to go into that.
Yeah.
It's whatever
Yeah.
you want it to be.
Which
Yeah.
to me is like a cop out because I mean, it could either be the director definitely had something in mind, or they were just like, no, I don't know either shit, and I just want to like hear the best one, and then
Yeah.
maybe years later I'll take that. But no, I really do like that take about him being dead. That I actually felt like goosebumps as you were saying that, because yeah, kids do like animals. Kids, I think, do kind of have sixth sense. I know even Kevin. Another thing that gets Kevin is when kids are like doing creepy stuff. It's like because the kids are supposed to be nice and innocent, blah blah blah. So when they're being all creepy and weird, I think that's one of the things that gets you.
Yeah.
But that wasn't necessarily the case here per se. But the fact that it was dealing with kids, I thought that might like at least up the the scary for you.
Yeah, I think if we had seen them more, maybe it would. If one of them had been really evil, or ultimately been possessed, or God forbid, if we had seen the kid act like really just like go for the eyeball in a over the top kind of way, that probably would have got me more. And it's
moment.
Yeah, and it's interesting because for me, the things that do scare me in the most in horror movies usually are the things that you can't see. And I think the biggest issue with this one is that that stuff is so few and far between that it's hard to really get that creeping sense of dread. And I think maybe, like I said, I would have had it if I was sitting there immersed in it with goggles and a headset, and there's no outside interference. So maybe this is a theater movie also would have been better. I don't know.
I gotta say though, if I was in the theater, I'd have been pissed. Like I was like, I came out to see this, other than like a quarter.
$12 for that.
I would be.
No.
And I wonder too, like if it would mess up a little kid to go see this, take a kid that's like 9 or 10, because it's not graphic. Like it's not. There's nothing that a kid technically can't see, right? Other than the little girl without her eyeballs in her face, which is a little creepy. But other than that, like there's nothing visually. But I wonder if it would get kids more.
Yeah.
So my 8-year-old really likes horror movies. I don't let her watch anything with like nudity or
Right.
real gore, just like cheesy stuff. But she happened to come in the room when I was watching Eraserhead, and there's just this one part where there's like woman dancing on like a vaudeville stage, and she's in a full dress, but she's got like dog cheeks and fur, and it creeped her out. So like nothing really creeps her out. She loves zombie movies, but that made her so uncomfortable, and she like freaked out and left. And it was nothing gory or scary. It was just a woman like tap dancing on an old stage in black and white with a little bit of a dog face, and she was like, noped the F out. She's like, So I think it might scare little kids.
Yeah. And that makes sense to me because I think the abstract and the things that are weird, I think they eat kids up a little bit more, right? Because their imaginations are great at filling in the blanks because they use them all day, every day. I think here when we're watching it, we're kind of filling in the blanks afterward, and reading what other people are filling in the blanks with, right? It's almost like a term paper instead of just an experience.
Exactly. For me though, like one of the scariest moments though was that face at the very end. Like you couldn't barely make out the face. Like, is that a face? I think it's a face. Because it reminds me of like when it's dark and you can barely see something, and it's like you can kind of make something out. It's just, that floating face was, for me, if I saw that as like 4 or 5-year-old, I think that would mess me up.
Oh yeah.
For sure. I really wish they chose a different voice though. It took me out of the moment, like the voice for the entity, because it sounded like Frank from Donnie Darko.
Yeah.
So like the electronic voice, it pulled me out of the moment.
It was weird too, because there was times when the voice almost sounded female. Like it would kind of trail off, or at the end of some bit of dialogue, it would sound almost female. And I still haven't given that enough thought as to why that would be, unless it was the mom. And I'd have to look at what those specific lines were. If they maybe meant something different to the lines that were deeper and darker, I don't know. Or I'm crazy and I didn't hear anything different, and it just is what it was. But the voice definitely did change a little bit here and there. Not enough that it was like blatantly something different, but it did change here and there.
Yeah. No, I was listening with headphones because I watched it on my laptop, and it did for sure.
No. Yeah, I do half wish that I'd watched this downstairs on my big TV with the full surround sound going, because that would have been interesting too, to really hear the spatial part of the audio moving around. You probably got some of it in the headphones.
Yeah, I had a little bit of fair warning from somebody else in our movie group to I didn't watch it in the dark like they recommended, but to try to be as immersed as possible to get the full effect. But I was watching it during the day, so even if I had all the lights off, it wouldn't make that much of a difference. So
Yeah,
I did put headphones on and watch it on my laptop.
And I'm not ashamed to say that I refuse to watch horror movies at night. Sorry, not happening. Like I don't want to give my psyche like any trauma, because I do have a pretty active imagination. And I remember like I was watching Annabelle, the second one. Remember the first one? And again, once there's a knock at the door, and then she closes the door, and then she looks up and sees like the demon like chilling on the ceiling. I said, nope, hit stop. I'll watch this tomorrow, because I mean, Skinamarink is one of those movies that is supposed to get under your skin and to haunt you and to leave you. And I actually did some more Googling, and yeah, like I think I will say that maybe, a year from now, like I may revise my verdict, because I'm seeing more and more links talking about it's a monster and it is literal and it is like all these theories, and it's cool, I think, to be able to explore theories around evil and what you just saw, so hell. But yeah, I just wanted to jump in there and basically say you guys are braver than I. I do not do the nighttime horror movie thing.
yeah. What movie did we watch last week, Jax? What was last week's Wednesday movie? I thought we watched something kind of decent, actually. Or was it the week before?
I should know.
It was the week before. Freddie picked last week.
Freddie picked the movie last week. The week
and
before,
then he didn't show up.
I don't know. I have a bad memory.
We watched something pretty good though within the last couple of weeks, and we watched those at night in the dark, so that's fun.
Let me see.
Hereditary, not Hereditary. I keep mixing them up. Barbarian. I did watch Barbarian at night, and that was okay though, because that wasn't like a monster per se. It was a misunderstood being.
We watched Bones and All.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
That was the cannibal love romance.
Yep.
It was really good.
It is a well-made movie. It's a good movie because they spent money on Timothée Chalamet.
Yeah. It was an interesting concept.
Yeah, for sure. And the little girl, she's from something else right now. She's becoming a big deal.
Oh, yeah. I know you guys were saying she was in something, but I didn't recognize her.
So. Yeah, I can't remember what it was off my head. But
the ending pissed me off, but this is a stupid way to end it.
But yeah, we see. And the funny thing is, I don't. This movie wouldn't work for our movie nights, right? There's not enough going on.
No, we would all just start talking and miss everything.
Yeah, our usual chatter would just take over, and that's all it would be.
Yeah.
And for sure you'd miss something because the things that happen are so sparse. They don't happen quickly enough and often enough to really draw you in.
That's what I wish would have happened more, is less freeze frames and more that the camera was moving around. We're supposed to be seeing things from the perspective of children, and I don't know what children they were
sitting
ever, but they don't sit still.
Yeah.
Unless you put a screen in front of them, and not some old 1940s cartoons either.
Yeah.
YouTube or video games, they don't sit still. So just like staring at the carpet or up at the wall for a good 30 seconds or more. It was just not holding my attention.
When this took place?
95 is what I read. So it was a bit.
Was it 95?
And the
So
wood
it was,
panel, I think, definitely also lends itself to the older.
yeah, there were certain things that definitely made it feel older. I every time, so they use that phone for dramatic purpose, but every time I saw it, I saw the phone from Toy Story. And I was just like, they're stealing that bit from Toy Story. And it made it far less scary for me, although they did do the one jump scare with it that worked a little bit.
Worked
Oh
for
yeah,
me.
that one got me a little bit.
But otherwise, every time it was on, I was waiting for, was it the bear to be on the other end of the line? But yeah, it just didn't quite land for me because of that. Because I have kids, because seeing Toy Story so many times, um, I didn't quite get the creepiness of it, even though it did look creepy. Like they made it look old and beat up and all that. But
Yeah.
Last question. Oh,
Okay.
so how did Skinamarink, I guess, come to your? I mean, we'd heard of it, but like how did it come to your attention as far as like, hey, this is a movie we should watch?
Well, because Kevin asked me, he's like, "Did you pick a movie yet that we were gonna watch?" And I was like, oh yeah, I forgot that you guys did that." Because I just usually do an interview and then we play a game, and that's how my podcast usually goes. So I was like, "We'll do this because that's what you guys do, and that sounds fun and a lot less planning on my on my part." So I had been meaning to watch it, and then I forgot about it, and I never had a chance to sit down because I was told to get immersed in it. So, it came across Hulu the other day, and I was like, "Oh, yeah, I need to watch that." And then when he asked me that, I was like, "Hey, let's watch this one." And I figured it would be good for a discussion. It seemed weird and open to interpretation, so
and I actually think it's a great movie for discussion. I think there's enough about it that makes it worth talking about. And like I said, if uh, if this was a group of 20 people, I'm sure there would be a handful of people in it that loved it, and that would be an even more interesting discussion. But like I can see this being a film school film at some point.
Sure.
It was
yeah.
made for nothing. There's no soundtrack to it, so the only audio is what comes from those cartoons, and then the voices. So they didn't have to pay anybody for music.
Oh, and
I would
all those
assume,
cartoons were open source.
yeah,
And
I'm
they made
sure,
a point to say that in the
yeah,
credits.
Yeah, that was smart on their half too.
Mhm.
yeah. So it's definitely, I mean, all in all, it's a creative film. Love it or hate it, it was really creative
Yeah.
and a intelligent filmmaking, whether it was great or not.
One of my favorite shots was the upside down shot where they're going into the bedroom. I think it's like
Yeah.
literally. I was trying to think, how do they shoot that? Like obviously, like someone's probably holding the flashlight to make it seem lifelike, but it was still a cool shot, like walking into that was my, like, as far as creativity goes.
Yeah.
Love that shit.
That was a good
Yeah.
shot. Thinking of the budget for this film, and it just blows my mind that more large studios won't pick up horror, because you see this film, $15,000, and it made, what did you say, like
Yeah, almost $800,000.
735,000?
Yeah.
And then the first Terrifier movie had a $35,000 budget. It made $400,000, and then they came back on the second one with a $200,000 budget, and it grossed in the millions for the second one. Like,
Yeah.
why are we spending millions of dollars on these major blockbusters when horror is making so much money right now? It blows my mind that these studios aren't picking up horror.
Yeah, horror is one of the best genres to write if you can write it well, because you could take something like what's the one where it's all in a cabinet at the house. She's deaf. It's by the guy that did Midnight Mass
Oh,
and
Quiet Place. Is that the
no,
one you're
no,
talking about? Oh,
no. It's even smaller than that. It's super tight. Um, but it's Mike Flanagan. Hush. It's called Hush.
oh, okay.
And so it's his wife, Kate Siegel. She's deaf. She lives in this house. and she's effectively being stalked by one guy. And so the whole film was shot in this house with this guy, and that's basically it. They have like 2 or 3 people show up for bit parts real quick,
Yeah.
but it's 2 actors and a house. I mean, it's the same thing as Skinamarink. They probably just use better equipment.
Right.
And so you come up with that idea that fits into that space, and it can be super inexpensive. Like taking Evil Dead too is the same idea, right? Evil Dead wasn't made for anything, right? You're paying some actors and you're in a single location,
I
and
love
then you
that
go nuts.
movie. And the
I,
scene when she's outside and they use the dancing Barbie doll.
So
Peak cinema
Kevin,
right there.
and we were talking. I remember now when we talked about Paranormal Activity. That's when Skinamarink came up. Paranormal Activity is still, I think, the most profitable film of all time. This is crazy.
percentage wise, yeah.
The production to produce it was only 15,000, right?
Yeah.
When the studios found it, they added a few extra shots, but those extra shots and marketing, I guess, was 215,000 for post production. The box office 194.2 million. So 15,000 for principal photography. 15,000, like, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Almost 200 million. That's butter. And I think that honestly, it's the Conjuring franchise that's basically kept Warner Brothers afloat, because basically the DC like universe, a whole comic book thing, whatever. It's like this guy named Peter Safran. He's like running it with what's his name? Tell me.
Zaslav.
No, not that. The Marvel guy. Safran and anyway, the guy who did
James Gunn.
Thank you. James Gunn and Safran are running DC now, right? Safran is a producer, and he's the one who's behind all the Conjuring films. So even though, in my opinion, they're not like the best filmmakers out there because they keep making things like, they're all bombing right now, at least the Conjuring franchise is like doing good. And that's what's financing all those, that whole studio. So again, to your point, Jax, yeah, I think horror is probably the most pound for pound profitable film genre.
And the Conjuring films are, for PG-13 films, they're solid.
Yep.
I mean, they're spooky, they're creepy, they get you with the jump scares, and I'm not always a fan of jump scare horror, but it gets you. I mean, you can't tell me, even the most hardcore horror fans can't say the jump scares don't get them. I mean, you might see some of them coming, but 1 or 2 of them are going to get you. So, I mean, it's fun. It's stupid fun, but it's fun horror nonetheless. And they're PG-13, so they're great introductory horror for teens and maybe even slightly younger kids who want to get into it. So they're solid films.
Yeah,
and they've been solid throughout the franchise.
Yeah, and what I like about them is that kind of like some of the things that happen in Midsummer and some of the things that happen in Hereditary, there's truth behind some of the Conjuring franchise. As you get into the Nun and as you get into the Annabelle stories, it gets less and less and less true as it goes on.
Yeah.
But the 2 main characters from The Conjuring were real people.
Yeah.
And the things that they did are the basis for these films, and they're exaggerated. So it kind of makes you watch it and then also go back and do your research on what really happened, which I think is kind of cool.
Yeah.
The Conjuring was one that I think that's the one where Andrew and I found out what it is that sets us apart when we watch horror, because like it had me the whole time. I was super into it. And then they do the exorcism, and then all of a sudden she's like flying around the room and the chairs on the ceiling and stuff. And I was like, that's where it lost me, because it was too much. Like before that, it was realistic and it felt like it worked. But as soon as they flip her upside down, she's on the chair. I'm like, oh, okay. I don't think that would happen. And so they lost me a little bit.
I kind of felt that way about the Babadook. At the end, it got really cheesy and the graphics were terrible. And I didn't care for the movie really at all. But then at the end, when they got to the climax, I was like, this is so bad. And people call this elevated horror, and it's just so bad.
Did you watch Smile?
Yes.
What about the end of that one?
It was goofy. She was goofy, But I liked Smile. I thought it was creepy.
Mhm.
There's some things that really get you when she's at the sister's house and she comes out to the car and her head, yeah, oh, gives me chills. Also, I was gonna say I love that you guys actually pronounce Midsummer right because I hear too many people call it Midsummer, and I'm like, that's
Yeah.
yeah, it's a Swedish word, and that's not how you say it.
Yeah. That one's a trip because like there's literally a tradition of old people jumping off a cliff and dying.
Yeah,
I'm like, okay, I don't want to live there.
thankfully
And
that they don't do that anymore.
yeah, but yeah, Midsummer's a trip.
Yeah,
Um,
no, I liked Smile. I thought it was really good and really creepy.
yeah, well,
Um,
and that's the other thing that gets me, and Andrew loves to point this one out is that it's anything that messes with the face, anything that's just a little off, that gets me the most. Like there's that
Momo.
Momo, if you look up,
oh yeah,
dude, that messes me up. I can't like of all the things that are out there on the internet, for some reason, that friggin' picture freaks me out the most. I cannot look at it for more than like a second. It gives me the willies, like I feel it through my whole body. And like I don't know why. I don't know what it is, but it freaks me out. But and
uh,
I've been reading Stephen King since I was like 11. You know, I've watched horror movies since I was a kid. Like all this stuff, and that stupid stretched out face just freaks me out.
And for me, because I was raised like Catholic, and I think one of the earliest like horror movies I saw, like I don't know, like 7 or 8, was the Amityville Horror Part 2. It was the one about like the when it possesses like the son, and then he like kills his whole family, whatever.
yeah,
Yeah, man. And then I read like The Exorcist, and I read the Amityville Horror in the 6th grade as well. So for me, it's just like being raised Catholic, just Satan shit. Sorry, Satan stuff is like
oh, it's
what.
fine.
Okay,
Yeah,
cool. It's the Satan stuff. Demonic anything is like. I mean, I'm just now. I remember. Okay, Kevin. I gotta thank Kevin. Kevin was like, you know what, man? There hasn't been any like fatalities from demonic possession. So I was like, huh. So I actually like looked it up and like you're right. There's only been like maybe dehydration or they died of malnutrition. But wasn't the
yeah,
demon it was just like whatever. So that made me be able to like handle demonic possession stuff again. But man, there's something about possession that just gets me. I'm not a fan.
yeah. I'm not a fan of any kind of cave movies or being trapped movies. The
Mm,
Descent, I had
Oh,
to get up and leave the room in parts of that
really?
movie, and I can't do it. Have to go. I can't watch this.
which movie was it?
The
The
Descent.
Descent.
Oh, Descent. Got it. Okay.
Yeah,
I just watched that for the first time a month or two ago.
I'm
Um,
severely claustrophobic, so I had
no,
to
that'll
leave.
definitely get you.
So
And
did
then,
you see Black Phone? Did that bother you at all?
I love that movie. No, I think because the focus on that was more on the supernatural elements than the kidnapping elements. I'm okay with that, but like the Descent, she's getting crushed in that in the tunnel, and I'm like, nope, I'm out. I gotta go. I can't watch this right now.
and
What
I get
about
that because I'm not claustrophobic, but there are scenes. So I watched, I think it's the latest Blair Witch kind of remake, and there's a scene at the end where they're like digging through a tunnel in the ground, and like the hole is too small. There's no way anybody fits in this. And I was like, I'm not claustrophobic, and I was like clutching at things. Like I was like this. I was uncomfortable.
the most uncomfortable I've ever been made from a claustrophobia standpoint is do you guys remember the movie like Aliens? Now I sound like Peter Parker in a Marvel movie. But anyway, in Aliens, Bishop crawls through like this tube. He literally he has to go like this and like crawl through the tube and it's like long. And that's like, yeah, I would your face. Sorry. Like, can you just imagine being stuck?
No.
Sorry.
It's the worst.
I would literally, I would. It's not. It wouldn't be. It would be hard for me to actually crack, like to lose my mind. But I think that I would go. I would go insane. I would.
Yeah.
It would power crack.
I had a very close encounter or close call when I was a child, so I'm
Oh,
like so terribly claustrophobic.
okay.
I can't even go like I live close to Missouri, so there's a lot of caves, like tourist caves. I'm like, nope, I'm good, and they're open, and I'm not going underground. You guys have fun.
Yeah, especially if you've
I'm
seen The
good.
Descent and you're like, I don't need to go down there.
Nope.
I know it's down there.
I'm like, I'm good.
Yeah.
Y'all have fun. I'm gonna keep my feet above the ground.
Yes.
Yeah. And somehow for The Descent, they made a sequel, which didn't make any sense.
Yeah.
Especially the Descent is an interesting one because there's an American ending and a British ending. And the British ending definitively ends the movie there. Like there's no way there could be a sequel. And then they made a sequel to it from the American version, and it was just dumb. I'm like, why would you go
I
back?
don't think I've
You
seen the
know your
second
friends
one.
are
Yeah.
all dead. You no. Sometimes you just have to make the right decision. Be like, I love my friends. They're dead. We'll
Yeah.
throw a wake and have a good old time.
You will be missed.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like there was a TV series with David Tennant that came out not too long ago. It was a streaming one. It was only like 6 episodes. Now I can't remember the name of it, but the gist of it is that he was a priest. One of his parishioners was had a lot of problems, and he was going to go to jail because he had like a USB stick with child pornography on it. Like that was his thing. And so David Tennant's character takes it from him so that he won't get in trouble and says, you can't do this anymore. You can't do this ever again, blah, blah, blah. Well, David Tennant puts it in his pocket, comes home to his wife and his son, puts it on with his keys on the tray. The wife finds it, thinks it's the son's. And then like, it's this chaotic series of ridiculously horrible decisions. And like, it ends up a woman gets trapped in the basement. And they have to kill her because they can't let her go because she thinks that the porn belongs to the kid or she thinks it belongs to David Tennant, one of the two. And it's just like, if at any point, it's called Inside Man. And if at any point just one person had made one intelligent decision, the entire movie's over or the series is over and everybody lives some degree of happily ever after. And you just
that's
watch
like every horror movie ever.
Sort of, but this is like bad. You're like because it's not in a horror situation. Like they're just in their homes, continually making bad decisions, and you're like, just stop, just explain everything.
Sorry, it's funny you said when Jackson. That's like every horror movie, right? So that was my rail against, like not against, but my rail about Barbarian, because like I even said on this show, I said if some voice said go upstairs or go downstairs, I wouldn't do it. Like I like when I watch these horror movies and I see these people making decisions, it's like I need to relate to you to like be invested. So the moment you keep zagging when I would zig, it's just kind of like, So I feel genuine. What's the word? Sympathy and empathy for people who are caught in situations that they couldn't control, i.e., being possessed, right? Yeah. but if you have a choice to go into an Airbnb in a random ass part of Detroit where they're like, why would you go there? Oh, it's cool, or go back downstairs.
It's not cool.
Thank you.
It's not cool.
Even like the whole beginning of that movie, which turned out okay, right? Like it was almost an okay situation. Like when you show up and there's a creepy looking Skarsgård at your door, you're like, bro, you can have the Airbnb. I'll go sleep somewhere else. Be like, we don't need to share.
An adorable Skarsgård.
Well, he was it. So
I like clowns.
Wow. Huh.
Yeah.
Not very common. I think I hear so many people say they hate clowns.
No, I love them.
I don't have a problem with them, but I understand how they can be creepy for sure.
I love them because people hate them.
Yeah.
I think it's
that'll
funny.
do it.
Okay, I gotta do it. Have you heard of Myers-Briggs?
Myers-Briggs. I've heard the name. So yes, I feel like yes.
All right, we're not doing this show. We'll do it some other time. But no, I'm always like what's the word? Observing people. It's a personality kind of theory. It's like 16 different types with 4 different letters. So I was wondering if you knew what you were, but if not,
I want to say
Introverted and extroverted. That's a good starting point, right? Like
ambivert.
Ambivert. Yeah, there are a lot
Yeah.
of them out there. Yeah, no, I don't. We can do this later. I
think
I
it's
was just curious.
either INJT. I can't remember.
INTJ,
INTP
P, or J.
or it's J. INTJ, I think.
Okay.
The
Alright.
campaigner. Is that
Well,
it?
definitely, yeah. I'm sorry, and you can like totally edit or whatever you want to do. But like, I just after you said that you like clowns because everyone hates them, that was a very intriguing statement, and it totally made me want to dig in a little bit more because that was cool.
Yeah, I just like creepy, cute things. So dolls, clowns, and most people hate dolls too, and I love them. I don't know. I like creepy, cute things.
Do you like porcelain dolls?
Yeah.
Fascinating. Okay, cool. No, just because, yeah, because they are definitely, I think, at the top of the no. Like,
Yeah.
that cannot be in my house.
oh, there's another movie like that where they hire the girl to take care of their son, but their son is just a doll.
The Boy. I love that movie.
Yes, that
Yeah,
movie's a trip. That movie's a trip.
it's a good one. I like the twist ending on that one.
Yeah.
Huh.
I was gonna ask you guys, what is your most hated movie trope, horror movie trope? Like something, or even if it's just something they do that makes you so mad, and it happens in so many horror movies.
You know, for me, and I kind of already talked about it. It's always the exorcism. They do the exorcism and they get so over the top that I'm like I can't buy this. Like if you're gonna sell me on a possession movie and make it feel so real, like I said, The Conjuring, um, that one lost me. It started to lose me when it grabbed the dude and took him down the hall and then down the stairs.
Yeah,
Like it was this full body thing that if you read about possessions that doesn't happen, and then they're in the basement and the voices I get, you put a bag over somebody's head, they speak in demonic voices. Cool. There's some like open sores or blood or something like that. Cool, I'm still in. But as soon as they start like floating and sitting on the ceiling and stuff like that, I'm like, you lost me because it's too much. I think when you're talking about possession horror, the thing that makes it the scariest is when you feel like it could happen to anybody.
yeah,
Yeah. I would, I'm not like the horror connoisseur per se, right? So at first I was going to cop out and say, yeah, I don't know enough about it, right? But then I thought about it, and I will say, and this is a very like half-baked, totally subjective opinion, but I would just say the jump scare in general. I just like do something that is not just gonna like grab me and like startle me. Like that I expect. It's almost that feels very rote. I want something that's going to mess with my psyche. That's what I want to see. I think jump scares are cheap and anyone can do them. You don't have to be a good
yeah.
filmmaker to do a jump scare. So I think that
That's
would be
a
my
good
answer.
point. I hate in slasher films when the protagonist or the victim hits the slasher and knocks them down, and they have a weapon and they have the upper hand, and then they drop their weapon and run, and I'm like, just keep hitting them. Why are you running away? You have the upper hand, they're down, beat them till they're unconscious and call the police. Like, they tried to murder you, you're allowed to do that.
Self-defense.
But no,
Yeah.
they run, and like, this movie could have been over. You could have just
Yep.
got them arrested.
Yeah, there's a lot of people that
Or
run
something.
in horror movies and don't just do the thing. Just kill that son of a bitch.
Yeah, just keep hitting him. That's why I really love Sam Carpenter as the new final girl in Scream, because she gives no fucks and she just like goes for it. And I'm like,
Yeah.
yes, you are savage.
Yes.
Yeah, that franchise came back too, big time,
Yes.
because I just watched them all pretty recently. After having not watched, I don't think I've watched past 3, and so I went back and watched them all, and and I really fell in love with the new ones. I
They are
love
great.
I love her character because she's so like ambiguous. Like you don't know, like in the next one that comes out, is she gonna be Ghostface? Like
Yeah.
she could totally be the killer. And I know they're fighting that because she's Billy Loomis's daughter, but like she could totally like just in any movie at any point, even
Right.
like
She's
halfway through
definitely
the
got
movie, she could
a
become Ghostface.
switch.
Yeah,
She's like
yeah,
the
She's got a switch.
Anakin of horror films. Like she would become like
yeah,
no, but it's so justified though, man. Like in my opinion, like again,
yeah,
not to go turn to a killer per se, but just her righteous, as you said,
Yeah.
savagery, her righteous rage is just so cathartic.
I think we're gonna see a lot more of the final girls like that are just what's her name? Sienna and Terrifier 2. Um that girl's just got the crazy in her eyes, and she was so savage, and I just loved her and was like, these are the heroines and the final girls we deserve, not these clumsy, I barely made it out alive, saved in the nick of the time but still survived because of somebody else coming in kind of final girls. These savage boss babes final girls are what we deserve in horror, and I'm here for it. So yeah,
yeah. I agree.
Sienna and Sam Carpenter right now have my heart for Final Girls.
Yeah, I love the girl that can hold their own and kick ass. Even if they get pushed around for a while, at least let them get to that breaking point and then have them turn and be willing to, just go nuts.
Yep. Well, we are past the hour mark, and I'm sure we could carry on, but it is late, and I have to. My kid is still running around. She needs to go to bed. So, this I'll give you guys a chance to plug your podcast and share your socials. So you can do that right now.
Oh, you can.
Go for it.
Yeah. Well, we're the All Pop No Culture podcast. We drop episodes every Wednesday or Thursday or Friday if I'm dragging, but we generally drop every Wednesday. And you'll most of the time see Andrew and I. Sometimes our friend Jen shows up. Sometimes Pete shows up. Sometimes Andy shows up. We got a few other people that come in and come and go. We've had some great special guests, and so yeah, we just try and keep up with what's going on, and then throw some stuff in. I've last week, I went on a huge A24 horror film tear, so we've got that going on. But yeah, we love doing it, and we talk about just pop culture, mostly films and television in general, and we love to do it. So definitely check us out. We are on YouTube. We're All Pop No Culture. Twitter, I think we're at All Pop No Culture. And then I know on TikTok and Instagram, it's All Pop No Culture, and we have a Facebook page, so you can find us everywhere. They tend to be a little less updated than the YouTube, but we're there, and we are all caught up. So we're also just you can find us on Apple Podcasts if you just want to listen, or Spotify, or all the podcast channels.
As always, those will be linked in the description below. If you want to find out more about me, you can find me on YouTube, of course, at Ravens and Writing Desks, on YouTube at Jax2, on Twitter at Jax2_0, sorry, for a little while longer. We'll see how that goes. On TikTok at Jax the Tiny Raptor, and Instagram at JS Larimore, and at jslarimore.com.
Real quick, do you want to throw something in about your books and stuff that you have out there that I can throw in on ours? I know you got some books on Amazon and stuff like that.
So I have a fantasy trilogy called the Wilder series. It's on Amazon under J.S. Larimore, and I have a poetry collection called A Theater Strange. It's also on Amazon under J.S. Larimore, and then everything else is short stories in Quill and Crow books, but you can find them on Amazon just by Google or by searching J.S. Larimore. There's about 3 or 4 of them out there. And then I have one with Band of Bards and Dark Side of Purity collection. So,
And really quick, because I know nobody on our podcast probably knows what it is. What's Quill and Crow?
Quill and Crow Publishing House is a indie publishing house that publishes gothic horror and gothic literature. You can find all of their books at thecrowshop.com. That's
Cool.
shop with 2 P's and an E. So that's where you can find all my books. Thank you for
Excellent.
reminding me.
Yes.
All right. Like I said, like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell. Thanks for joining us on Ravens and Writing Desks.